With that, we'll have the invocation by Lanny Brandt and then join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you stand, please? Father God, we're so thankful for this glorious day you've given us. Father, we thank you for every household that is represented here this evening. Father, just be with us this evening in the decisions that we make, that they benefit all of Camden County. For this we pray in your most glorious name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Katie.
All commissioners are present.
Is there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, can we get an adoption motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
All those in favor? The agenda has been adopted. Now, this brings us to the approval of the minutes for February 21st, regular meeting. There were some edits made to it earlier today. Hopefully everybody has read that, and can we get a motion on those minutes?
Second. No, go ahead.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, this brings us to a presentation by Nancy. Where's she?
Yes, sir. Nancy Gonzalez, I'm the county's chief financial officer, and we do have a PowerPoint. Scott, could you put that up? Thank you. So this is the presentation of the quarterly financials for the second quarter, fiscal year 23. So it's period ending December 31st, 2022. Next slide, Scott. Thank you. So these are the revenue highlights for the general fund. Actual revenues for fiscal year 2023 are 12.3 million, which is 30.8% of budgeted revenue. 50% of budgeted revenue at the second quarter is 20 million. The actual revenue collected at the same time last year was 11.3 million, or 31.4% of the budget. And the majority of this variance between the 2 years is digest growth and timing of tax collections. 22.1% of the property taxes have been collected. And last year at this time, 20.8% of the property taxes were collected. And the second largest funding source for the general fund is local option sales tax. In that our collections are 1 month in arrears at December 31st. There were 5 months collected at 44.3% of budgeted revenue. And lost is running higher than budget, mostly due to inflation, as this is a 1% sales tax. And other revenues are coming in as expected. Next slide. General fund expenditures through December are 20.1 million, or just over 50% of budget. The mid-year budget would be 20 million. And the actual for last year at this time was almost 18 million. General government, which is administration, finance, HR, IT, employee health, workers' comp, etc., are in total over budget at 61%. This is caused almost entirely by employee health benefits claims at 113% of a 2.6 million claims budget. Additionally, workers' comp is over budget overall at 63% of budget, with claims already at 78% of a $150,000 claims budget. Public safety, courts, and public works are at or below budget at this time. Next slide. So this is a recap. The revenues are at 12.3 million, expenditures are at 20.1 million, with a net of 7.8 million of expenditures over revenues. Last year at the second quarter, the net revenue and expenditures were a negative 6.2 million. Both unfavorable variances are caused because of timing of tax collections only. Next slide. So this slide is a consolidation of expense by type. The first item is salaries and benefits. This includes wages, health insurance, FICA, and retirement. Costs increased 25% from the prior year. This is caused mostly by the pay increases in July based on the salary survey recommendations, new positions budgeted in 2013, and the health and workers' comp claims that I previously discussed. Contracted services decreased from this time last year by 11%. Supplies and materials such as fuel, electric, office supplies, etc. This category increased from last year by almost 18%. The largest increases were in the sheriff's office, EMS, and public works. Next is property, vehicle, and liability insurance. This slide compares actual expenditures through December to last year, and it's a bit misleading as there's a timing difference in the payments to the carriers. Costs did not go down 27%. Overall insurance increased by 13%, and the cause of the variance is due to the timing of the payments last year. So a third quarter payment was recorded early and overstates December of 2021. Transfers and intergovernmental costs increased by almost 7%, and capital costs decreased by 40%. While this is a large percentage, the actual capital expenditures were not that large. And the remaining category, Medicare adjustments, this is from the EMS ambulance service, increased by 12% from the prior year. And overall expenditures have increased by 14.5% for fiscal year 23 through December. Next slide. So this is the curbside collections budget, which is at almost 1.5 million. Revenues are approximately 61% due to the receiving of insurance premium tax revenue, which is supplementing the curbside fund. Expenditures are at budget. The difference is $145,000, and the difference from last year is the increased use of insurance premium tax. Next slide. E911 or emergency telephone budget is 1.7 million. Revenues are at 23% of budget, and operating revenues are at 34.5% of budget. This is because the state collects tax and disperses it to the county 2 months in arrears. Additionally, the general fund budget subsidizes E911, and the transfer has not yet been made. Further, fund balance will be used to balance the budget if needed. And expenditures are at below budget at 36%. Next slide. The budget for the unincorporated tax district is approximately 4.3 million, which includes use of fund balance. The county has received almost 1.6 million in revenues, and insurance premium tax was received in October and makes up almost half the half of the budget use of fund balance. Additionally, property tax for the unincorporated area is collected in this fund and is due in January. And expenditures are over budget at 66% of budget due to the encumbrance or order of 2 rescue pumpers and 3 rescue tankers. Next slide. The budget for solid waste is 6.7 million, which includes use of 3.5 million in fund balance. Overall revenues are reflected at 24% due to fund balance is not used until the end of the year to balance. Revenue from operations are 50.6% of budget, and expenditures are slightly below budget at 47%. And the loss is expected and budgeted due to the use of fund balance at year end. Next slide. Two Rivers gun range revenues through December are 131,000 or 43.7% of budget, and expenditures are 163,377 or 54.5% of budget. The expenditures, however, includes depreciation, which is a non-operating expenditure of 31,000. And at this point, Two Rivers is breaking even operationally. And I guess that's it. Next slide, please. And this is just a a graph of Two Rivers Gun Range sales. The light blue line is a combination of all the revenues. The purple and the black line are memberships and daily activity fees, respectively, and the yellow is merchandise sales. Oh, go back. And as you can see, they're all trending somewhat upward. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. This projects the fund balance for the funds previously discussed. So the general funds fund balance is not expected to increase this year and will likely stay about the same. Curbside will stay about the same, but of course it's subsidized by insurance premium tax. E911 is expected to decrease fund balance from 342,000 to 42,000 due to budgeted use of fund balance. And the unincorporated tax district will use approximately 1.6 million of budgeted fund balance. And I want to note, though, that if the encumbered or ordered equipment discussed earlier does not come in by the end of the year, the fund balance will not be used this year, but it will be budgeted again in fiscal year 24. Next slide. Solid waste is projected to use approximately 3.5 million, reducing fund balance from 4.2 million to 673,000. Next slide. This is a summary of SPLOST and the county-wide projects. Total revenues collected to date on SPLOST were just over 36 million, which is averaging 864,000 per month for the entire SPLOST. But if you look at the last 6 months, we're averaging almost $1 million per month. And this is a list of expenditures through December for the countywide projects and disbursements to the cities, and they all total $20.9 million. Next slide. So this slide summarizes the county projects for SPLOST 8. Expenditures to date are approximately 6.5 million. The road projects and building renovations have most of the allocated amounts remaining. However, the vehicles, IT, and equipment are almost fully expended. And this does include committed funds, as you can see, for a vehicle lease that's for the sheriff's office. Next slide. And this is ARPA funds. We've received over 10.6 million, and ARPA expenditures are at 3.7 million, and that includes encumbered funds. And I've broken it out by actual activity, encumbered, and a total. And the larger projects are listed in the table. And for a list of all ARPA expenditures by project and a detail on all other funds, the quarterly report is posted on the finance website. Next slide. So that is the web address for the financial statements on the finance website. And commissioners, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't.
Anybody got any questions for Nancy? No, thank you, Nancy. We got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this brings us to our first public comment section. This is on regarding items featured on the agenda only at this time. Any registered speakers, Katie?
Yes, sir. The first is Mr. Bengoff.
My name is Ben Goff, Crooked River Drive, Harris Bluff. This is on item 12. Mr. Commissioner, let me be the first to remind you that tomorrow will be the anniversary of a monumental occasion that will be remembered long in history and its effects on all of Georgia. 72% of the voters said yes to stopping the purchase of the Union Carbide property, but yet you continue to fight the will of the people. Some of you like to say, well, it was a low turnout. Let me call your attention to a couple of other low turnouts. SPLOST 8, 1,600 for it. 500 against it. Yet it was declared a win. Take a look at the primary for District 5 for his current term. Probably anyone running could have beat him. District 2 was closer to 78% in favor of stopping the purchase and activities, yet our commissioner ignores those voters today. Direct quote from District 5 Commissioner on March 4th, 2022. However, realizing that he spoke against the company, he has since manipulated this statement in several ways. If there is no buyer of the UCC property within the next 30 days, the county must cease any and all work on this project. Reason being, if one of these firms steps up and buys the property, we can still recoup the money spent by them paying a user fee for the license, as well as being able to continue to tax the property. In the absence of any buyer, the project must stop and all documentation released to the public. Also on March 4, 2022, our House Representative, Mr. Stephen Saines, posted an official video stating that he would sundown the Spaceport Authority. Apparently, he was advised that he was speaking against the company, and now he cannot be contacted. What a tangled web of deception has been woven. It would appear that both of these men had thoughts that the vote on the following Tuesday would go in favor of the county. Who knows? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ricky Manning.
Rick Manning from Bullhead. Let's just run through your agenda. Let's go with number 8, curbside collection rate adjustment. I just don't foresee another rate adjustment going up. If we're gonna adjust it, let's go down. We're already showing good revenues. So that's a gimme. All right, release all spaceport records. On here again. You keep hiding behind legal stuff about spaceport records. You won't even tell us how you voted on all this stuff, which your voting records are public records, but yet I can't seem to get them. I keep getting thrown off on attorney-client privilege. There ain't no privilege for your voting records. You're public servants, in case you forgot. Termination of the county attorney contract. That goes right back to what I just said. He's the one telling you all this. You're public servants. So is he. Release it. Now, rocket engine testing. That's another one. Should be no question about. Do y'all actually going to approve something for rocket engine testing out there? You ignore all the 2017 seismic testing with the arsenic levels. 9 million times above permissible levels. 9 million, not 9 times. Do y'all not understand that the solvents, the DCM, the acetone, the nitric, sulfuric, the 2,5 CTPA and stuff that's in that ground? I read the whole almost 1,000-page little brownfield report. I don't know if y'all have or not. That sampling situation is a joke. It's all surface samples, surface water samples, white tests. These chemicals over the decades are down there sitting on top of these lime rock beds. You stir it, it stirs up. Arsenic's natural occurring, but it's not when you stir up those chemicals and it eats that arsenic off of that lime rock bed. And I'm going to tell you right now, when you go out there and start stirring that ground, I know what's going to happen. Y'all might not have any feelings about this because I don't know who you're protecting. It's a sweetheart deal, as some of these commissioners have said about something else in the past. Sweetheart deal with somebody in the county. You're listening to only people that have skin in this game and are out to make a profit off of this. Ask yourself, would somebody sell thousands of acres of deep water frontage for $1 if it was worth something? Bear's sitting back laughing. Those guys from Bear that helped broker this deal for the brownfield and get rid of it, they got big bonuses. I know them. They got big bonuses and moved up in the corporate world. Yeah. And now you want to go out there and do something with this? Think about your county and your environment, not your friends and not these people that's feeding you bull. Because I can show you different and tell you different. I just talked to a guy that was out there for the very last day that that plant closed.
All right, your time's up, Ricky.
My time's not up, Mr. Casey.
Your time's up. You get 3 minutes.
You didn't tell me I had 3 minutes to begin with.
That's standard. You get 3 minutes.
It's not standard unless you quote it to begin with, but you know what? I'll shut up for now. But I'll catch you at the end of the meeting.
That's fine. I'll be here. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Paul Harris.
Good evening. My name is Paul Harris. I live at 400 Barkentine Drive in St. Mary's, Georgia, the end of Point Peter. I'm here to speak to number 12 on the agenda about the spaceport in more general terms than some others who have more expertise than I do. Some of you may know that together with Commissioner Goodman, Councilor Goodman at the time, I was one of the two protagonists for the petition. Our names were on it that successfully had the, as has been mentioned earlier, voted down. It really seems to me that it's time to put this whole spaceport issue to bed. I mean, it is absolutely abundantly clear that there will never, ever be a rocket launched from that property. Period, end of story. No rational person can question that under the circumstances. The matters of whether the petition was valid or had enough of a majority or enough participation are all absolutely moot. They've been decided by the court. There are no pending issues involved in that at all. And the fact that the commissioners are still playing various games about releasing the records is in contrary to the oath that you took to look after the fiduciary interests of the electors that put you in office. County commissioners all took an oath, and the language is very clear. And there's a big appetite among people smarter than myself to look and see what actually happened to the nearly $13 million that's been squandered on this project over many years, retroactively. If the commissioners think that there's an omissions insurance that's going to cover any malfeasance or things that were done outside the line of fulfilling their fiduciary obligations to the electorate and to the county finances, they should look more carefully at the insurance policy. It doesn't cover that. So by playing these ongoing games, you know, I was threatened by the county attorney to be sued, and maybe by the commissioners themselves, for $20 million personally. I was insulted by the county attorney in court, in Superior Court, which is all on the record if anybody wants to see it. Now there's some craziness about there's some military thing going on which precludes you from being forthright about it. This is all just nonsense, and it's time for it to stop. Everybody sees how transparent this is. There is not going to be a spaceport, and the fact that money continues to be spent on legal cases or consultants on other expenditures on this is absolutely unconscionable. And it really needs to stop because the hole is getting deeper. And there's people that are going to ask questions about why this all went on. And $13 million, $12 million, whatever it is nothing to sneeze at. And a lot of things could be done for the good of this county with that kind of money. And it's been burned about absolutely nothing. And the burning better stop soon, because you're doing yourselves all a big disfavor with continuing to play these games.
All right, your time's up, sir.
Thank you for
Thank you.
listening. I appreciate it.
Mr. Jim Goodman.
Being so slow getting up here. Earlier in the course of this month, we received a letter from the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, Mr. Ben Casey. And it addressed some issues regarding release of spaceport records. And a lot of times when the public gets a letter that's from the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, the public assumes that that is the
singular voice of all of the commissioners. And I would like to go on record tonight, divorcing myself, separating myself, detaching myself, and forevermore rejecting any association and affiliation with that letter. It contains several material errors, in my opinion. And I have some pretty good research tools available to me and some very well-placed friends who absolutely assure me that ITAR, the international trade regulations regarding arms, was addressed the issue of small rockets and completely excluded small rockets from any consideration of prohibitions on the launching or trade or export of arms. Now, it's disingenuous, in my opinion, to come up here at this 11th hour and start talking about that we are actually going to be testing arms. That was never mentioned in almost 8 years of dealing with the spaceport issue. I don't think the public would have had much of an appetite for that. What I see it is a last-minute effort to try to give credulence to, as Mr. Paul Harris, excuse me, Paul, mental block, just mentioned, to a dead horse. And I think it's very disingenuous. I invite you to do your own research on it. So I think that that's one of the fundamental flaws in the letter. The other thing is the entire concept of continuing to refuse to release spaceport records is predicated on misuse of the law regarding GORA and the request for records and open government. So I have two fundamental conflicts with that letter. Subsequent to that letter, another one was released alluding to the potential of 300 employees coming to this county testing rockets that are firmly and permanently attached to the ground. How tone deaf and insensitive can you be on the 50th anniversary of the loss of 29 lives in this county to suggest that we're going to start producing highly explosive, volatile materials and shaking up the ground, as Ricky Manning had pointed out? Thank you very much for your time. I think I got it said.
Okay, I'll address this. During our phone call, Mr. Goodman, your time is up.
But yours is too, because this is not
Mr. Goodman, during our phone call, you said that you would absolutely support the testing of rockets out there.
the way you presented it, Mr. Casey, I did agree that I would support the testing of rockets, but that was before I read, and I will show you.
And let me interject another thing. And I never actually said that they would be test firing the rockets. What they would be doing is manufacturing the vessels and pressure testing the vessels. They would fill these vessels up 90% or more with water and then supply it with compressed air or some kind of compressed gas to pressure test the vessel.
Never heard that.
You didn't ask. But it's out there now. But
Let's get it all out there.
Well, we are getting it out there. You alluded that,
Ben, let's move on.
well,
Let's move
we'll
on.
move
It
on.
ain't worth the argument.
from now henceforth, any phone call I make with you will be more than one person on the line, or it'll be email only.
I'm
All
fine
right,
with
any other speakers? Anybody else wish to address the board? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. All right, we need to adjourn the regular meeting and convene the first public hearing. This will be on the hotel motel tax increase. I think Nancy will have an intro for it.
Yes, Chairman.
We need a motion first.
I make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and convene a public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. We're in a public hearing on the hotel motel tax. Okay, Nancy.
Okay, so the hotel motel tax is a 5% tax on lodging in the unincorporated tax district. The tax is remitted to the county by the lodging facility, and it also includes VRBOs and Airbnbs. This public hearing regarding the hotel motel tax is to raise the tax from 5% to 6%. Currently, annual revenue at 5% is projected at about $167,000. 3 of the 5% that we're currently using is restricted revenue, and that revenue is dispersed to the city's tourism authorities and the Chamber of Commerce. And the board has also recently committed funding to the Thykal Memorial Project from hotel motel funding. And by raising the rate to 6%, the tax is expected to produce an additional $33,000.
Anybody got any questions for Nancy?
No, just a comment. I mean, this is to get us more in comparison to some of our surrounding municipalities and counties, correct?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Both cities, St. Mary's and Kingman, and all.
Yep.
Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak in favor of this item? Anybody wish to speak in opposition? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. We need to adjourn the first public hearing and convene a second public hearing.
Motion so moved.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. All right, Cindy, I think this is you. Can you get a little closer to the mic?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
The first item is a rezoning. It's to rezone 36.8 acres from agricultural forestry to single-family residential. Along with this is a future land use from rural to residential. Property is located in District 1 on Piney Bluff Road in Waverly. This parcel has 16.6 acres that is zoned conservation preservation due to be in marshland. This acreage will remain in the CP zoning. This rezone is pending approval of the submitted subdivision plat, which is attached. Applicant is requesting the rezone to sell the parcels for residential uses, and the Planning Commission recommends approval.
Okay, anybody got any questions? Nothing. We've been over this pretty good. All right, does anybody from the public wish to speak in favor of this item? Anybody wish to speak in opposition? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Cindy?
Okay, this is a request for a special use approval to allow seasonal outdoor events, which is festivals and a corn maze. The property is zoned to agricultural forestry and is 94.2 acres. The property is located in District 1 at 9951 Georgia Highway 110 in Woodbine. Applicant has requested the special use to allow festivals and the corn maze. The use chart in the ordinance requires a special use for seasonal events in agricultural forestry zoning such as these. And approval of the special use will authorize the planning director to issue a temporary permit at the time of these events. Section 1243 of the Unified Development Code states the following for temporary use permits. The planning director is authorized to issue temporary use permits for the following uses in a zoning district where the use is otherwise allowed, subject to the applicable conditions for each individual temporary use, provided it's determined such use will cause no traffic congestion and will not adversely affect surrounding areas. And the Planning Commission recommends approval on this as well.
Anybody got any questions?
No.
Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak in favor of this item? Anybody wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item.
This is another rezoning to rezone 4.5 acres from single-family residential to agricultural forestry. Property is located in District 1 on New Post Road in Waverly. The owner is asking to rezone so that they may have the option to place a manufactured home on the property, and the Planning Commission recommends approval.
Anybody got any questions?
I don't.
Anybody from the public wish to speak in favor of this item? Anybody wish to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing none. At this time, we need a motion to adjourn the second public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. All right, this brings us to old business. This is, resolution requesting the Attorney General to prosecute those involved with the Camden County Public Service Authority theft and misuse. I assume everybody's read the proclamation. Can I get a motion on this?
Make a motion, we approve the proclamation.
Second.
Second. Discussion? I got one thing to say is, the theft will also involve the cities. I don't know why the cities are not involved in this. Kind of carried. I don't know why. Somebody could have brought it up at the city commissioners or city council meeting and done this, because the city of St. Mary's probably lost more money at this than anybody. But, with that, gonna have a vote on this item. All those in favor? Those opposed?
I'm recused myself.
Motion carries. All right, this brings us to the second item. Mr. Horton, that would be you.
Good evening, Commissioner. Bobby Horton, City Manager for St. Mary's. We're coming to you again, requesting consideration to be a part of TAD 2, which is our Exit 1 project. Your increment being 95% of it. We've presented it and we've talked about it, and so I'm here if you have any questions.
Anybody got any questions? Seeing none?
I had two brief ones,
All right.
and I've already asked these to Robbie. But the idea that these guys are coming in from the outside, are they going to use local people to do this work, to get this project going?
It'll be open to everyone, is my understanding.
But will they focus on local people, and especially the multiplier effect that takes place when we take it outside of the county?
I can't speak for them.
Okay.
Martin, are you specifically asking for the phase 1 development from the city, or what Rayonier's planning to do? Because
I'm actually talking about the Radiant folks, the
Okay.
Rayonier people. I would like to see them use local contractors as much as possible. I realize they can't use all of them, but as many as possible. The one thing that most people don't realize is that the local people here, we support the cities. We support the school systems. We're the ones that buy the T-shirts and do all these other things. And if you constantly take our internal money, our tax dollars, and send it to Jacksonville or Brunswick or Statesboro or Savannah, then you're helping their economy and not ours. That's important
Yes, sir.
to understand that. And I would like for them to at least hear that, that's not, I don't think we can make it a requirement, but definitely make it a strong suggestion.
We have relayed that to them in conversations through the process, and that's the reason you see a lot of the numbers that you saw in the financial report.
And the other thing I asked you about a while ago as well is some of the Osprey Cove folks, they said that the traffic there is already a nightmare. And we talked about at least putting a red light there at Osprey Cove so that we don't have so many accidents, and that the infrastructure be a definite priority. So, because we don't want it to end up being congested. It's already a little congested. We don't want it to be a major issue.
I can assure you that I personally have talked with the Commissioner for Department of Transportation, Georgia Department of Transportation. He and his folks are actively on that and are looking at it, evaluating and studying it. They're not taking for what Radiant has said. They're looking at their own numbers and their own stuff. They've also engaged the Federal Highway Administration and DOD because it is a limited access roadway. So all the players that have that responsibility are engaged, and they are scrutinizing that whole traffic situation.
Okay, and also the base is involved in this
Yes,
because
DOD.
they control that road.
Absolutely.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Horton, to kind of tag line off of Commissioner Turner's questions, my understanding of the project, Radiant is going to take the property to market. They're not really going to build anything or hire contractors or do any of that. They're just basically, y'all are putting the infrastructure in for phase one for the water and sewer improvements, the fire station, and then they're going to subdivide the property, maybe rezone it, anything they need to do, and then market it to some of their partners,
Commissioner Reddick,
regionally.
you are correct.
Okay.
You are correct, Commissioner.
But I'd like to still see the
Yes.
city of St. Mary's kind of push that.
Yes, sir.
No matter who it is. I don't care if they have 10 contractors out there, So that's important.
And if our agreement passes tonight with the city of St. Mary's, we'll be participating at 95%, and that 5% that the county will keep, that is to go toward if we have to staff, the fire station with an ambulance. So, you're talking about, 6 people and 1 ambulance, so that's what that is. All right, any other questions?
Yes, sir. Mr. Casey, I'd like to make a comment in support of the TAD. It came up, of course, during my tenure as a city councilman. It was not without its detractors, but it was also with its supporters. And when I made the transition on January the 1st, I was asked, how does this change your view of it? And I said, well, it certainly does change it. It changes it from that of a city councilman to that of a county commissioner. It does not diminish my support for the project. And the reason I say that is this. If you get in your car, and particularly on the back road on 17, and drive down the coast, and that used to be called the Coastal Highway, I believe, and you're coming down through South Carolina, let's go back up as far as North Carolina into South Carolina. City after city is prospering. You hit the Georgia coast, and it begins to look a little different. Recently, in the Savannah area, it's coming alive. And in some of the other interim counties in between us and Savannah, it's coming alive. You get to Camden County, and it's still a vast wasteland. We're missing an economic opportunity on that road. We're missing economic opportunities on I-95. We have Jacksonville that is moving into Camden County. There's a demand for the kind of project that we're talking about here. So it changes from the standpoint of supporting it as a city councilman to the standpoint of saying, this is going to be good for Camden County's overall economy because those tax monies flow into all of the coffers. And we will have something to offer people in terms of upscale housing and upscale restaurants and upscale health facilities and a greater and more vibrant economy if we do this. Now, the big sticking point with a lot of people has been the financing of it. And here's an interesting fact. If your county or your city does not incur some debt, it's a surefire indication that it's dying on the vine. Because in the grand scheme of building things that can be taxed, you have to spend the money to do it. Camden County has to spend some money to do this. St. Mary's has to spend some money. I have a vested interest in it. I live in the city of St. Mary's. And I, you know, Miss Bishop's husband can tell you, I've been up here appealing my tax as any good citizen should do. So strange to me, they went up after I appealed them, but that's a different discussion. I like those people. They treated me very cordially and very fairly, and I will be treated fairly. I was going to say to them, you know, just ignore the fact that, you know, I'm a county commissioner, but I thought to myself, you know, that's very presumptive of me to think that they wouldn't do it in the first place. I would hope that they would. And I would hope that if I detect that I'm given any kind of preferential, June, did I bore you, honey?
Mr. Goodman, can we get back on the subject?
Yes, sir, we're on it. So I do support it. Thank you, Mr. Casey. I appreciate your wise counsel in all things. Yeah.
Okay.
So I do support it, Robbie. And I know that you and I have had some personal discussions about it. I think it's good for Camden County. Here's the bottom line. If we don't do it, what's going to happen? Who else is going to come into Camden County and offer this type of planned development? I don't know of anyone that's going to do it. I really don't. I
All
will
right, anything else?
yield my time now, Mr. Casey. Thank you so much.
All right.
I'll just share real quick. I'll be a little bit briefer. Somehow I didn't, I skipped over this, I guess, on the agenda, so I didn't realize it was going to be up for tonight. I think overall I support the basis of this project, but, and I think it's I'm going to use the word sweetheart deal, whoever said that earlier, for Rayonier. I think it's a good deal for the city, but I think it's really risky for the taxpayers, and I still just can't kind of get over that financing issue that I have with that. And, it really just boils down to if, there's enough money going to be taken out during that bond under the phase one to service the debt for 5 years. But if nothing happens after that money's spent, then what? And that's really what I can't get, I would say really good clarification on. So that's kind of my hang up on it.
You ever build a spec house?
Every day. But to that point, I don't think the government should be in speculative business. We're here to provide services to the citizens and not,
Right, and
take
I
risks.
agree. The only thing is, I've known that property for a long time, and it's been exactly what it is now for a long, long time. And I think that we're underutilizing our area when we don't do something that will help our economy in the long run. Granted, I think we're going to end up at $7,000 worth of taxes for the next 19 years. Am I correct? Is that true? As far as the county goes?
Right, if we don't do anything, that's what we'll.
Yeah,
end
pretty
up.
much. We're gonna end up there anyway. We're gonna end up there if we build, we're gonna end up there if we leave it like it is now. So, I mean, it's, flip a coin, I guess, but at the same time, it's like building a spec house. That's the way I see it.
All right, can we get a motion on this item?
Make a motion, we approve the TAD agreement.
I second.
All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 3-1, 3-2, rather.
Gentlemen, thank you.
All right. Cindy, you're back up.
Item number 3. Request to rezone 36.8 acres from agricultural forestry to single-family residential, along with a future land use from rural to residential. Property is located in District 1 on Piney Bluff Road in Waverly. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Get a motion on this item.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Item
Next
number-
item, Karen.
Item number 4, special use approval to allow seasonal outdoor events for festivals and corn maze. The property is zoned agricultural forestry and is 94.2 acres. Property is located in District 1 at 9951 Georgia Highway 110 in Woodbine. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Got a motion and second. I will say that, special use permit, if it's not used within
12 months.
so many months, you gotta come back and reapply. We got a first and second. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Item number 5, request to rezone 4.5 acres from single-family residential to agricultural forestry. Property is located in District 1 on New Post Road in Waverly. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 6.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here regarding item number 6, the approval of the low voltage build out for Phase 1 of the Resiliency Center. The purpose is to request that the Board of Commissioners consider the approval of the low voltage build out for Phase 1 of the Resiliency Center. History: due to the accelerated construction phase of the Resiliency Center, it is necessary to contract a low voltage install prior to drywall installation to avoid any issues that may otherwise require the drywall be removed. Current drywall installation is expected to begin within the next 3 weeks. Facts and issues: working with the above timeline in mind, Camden County has received 3 qualified quotes that were directly requested from 3 vendors that have all at some point completed work for the county in the past. The 3 vendors that quotes were requested from are IDS, BTS, and NSC. All were provided project design and drawings to build their quotes off of and were asked to provide a turnkey solution. Of the 3, IDS provided the lowest cost quote and maintains an office a half a mile away from the job site. IDS can be on site as early as March 8, 2023 to begin work. IDS will provide a turnkey solution as it pertains to the Phase 1 low voltage build out of the Resiliency Center. And I'm making a recommendation for approval, and the total cost is $67,440.
All right, can I get a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to approve the Phase 1 low voltage build out for the Resiliency Center to IDS in the amount of $67,440.
And this is a local contractor.
Second.
All right, we got a first and second. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
The next agenda item, this is Nancy Gonzalez. The next agenda item is for the board to consider the
Brings us
approval of
to
budget amendments.
Item number 7.
Oh.
Ms. Nancy, a budget amendment?
Yes, it's a budget amendment. And it's for the board to consider approval
still
of budget
online?
amendment. Pardon?
Are we still online?
Could you hear me?
Okay. let's see, she was doing curbside too, wasn't she?
Yes, it was.
Yes. Can you hear me?
All right, well,
Sir, could you
while
hear
we're
me?
working on that, we can jump to item number 9. Chuck?
Evacuation zone was completed for Camden County in 2013. The National Hurricane Center uses the sea, lake, and overland surges from hurricanes or slosh model to predict the surge inundation extent and water depths from various categories of hurricanes. The facts and issues, the new modeling, and the data developed by Dewberry Consulting on behalf of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers maps the maximum of maximum storm surge levels potentially impacting Camden County from tropical storms and hurricanes. The new data will allow Camden County to right-size our evacuation zones to better reflect risk and to allow us to better manage evacuations if and when they're called. And at this time, what I'd like to do is ask Mr. Bill Massey, who joins me here tonight from Dewberry, who is directly contracted by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, to provide a little background to the evacuation study that is driving our opportunity to make this right-sizing change of our current zones. Bill.
Thank you, Mr. White. I think it's imperative that I give you a little background so that you understand why we're here, why we're doing this, and who's behind it all. Which one is our go-to one? The National Hurricane Program, is that? Here we go. We have to be instructed here. The goal of this program is actually to provide local governments with the technology and the information so that you can better protect your citizens from the hazards of a hurricane or tropical storm. And I can't really read that the red, but basically what you need to know is that this is a national program administered by the Federal Emergency Management Agency in coordination with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, specifically the National Hurricane Program. They work in concert with each other to provide this information. And here are the partners here. FEMA is the lead, the Corps of Engineers, NOAA, somebody like myself, a contractor, a local community, Camden County, and the Georgia Emergency Management Agency is also a partner in this. Next. Little history about hurricane studies. For 25 years, I was the hurricane program manager for Federal Emergency Management Agency in Atlanta for Region 4. In 1987, we completed the first hurricane study for the coastal Georgia and for Camden County. 2001, we updated that study. In 2013, a new study was done, and that 2013 study used a slosh model that Chuck has mentioned, centered on Savannah Basin, which was a smaller basin, but that's the one we used, the one you've been dealing with for the last 10 years. So now we move to 2023, and we're working on this study now that will be completed before the end of the year. Next, first thing we do with a hurricane study is do a hazards analysis. Basically, what are the hazards created by a hurricane? And so we look at the magnitude, extent of the storm, and we look at where the storm surge would flood, how deep it would get, how many acres would flood in Camden County. All of that information is being provided to Camden County Emergency Management. And next one, please. And we start by doing the mapping process, and we'll show you a little bit more about that in a minute. But Chuck mentioned the sea, lake, and slosh model, a sea, lake, and overland surges from hurricane. But you'll hear about something called a maximum envelope of water, or a MEOW. and that doesn't mean a kitty cat, but we talk about meows, and that is the maximum that any one storm of a particular category can give you. And all of that stuff, we use in Georgia, we use tropical storm through a Category 5. And the reason we use a tropical storm in Georgia is because it's only one of two places in the country where a tropical storm creates enough storm surge to create a life-threatening situation as bad as Georgia. So Georgia, the coast of Georgia, just so you'll know, has the worst potential for storm surge on the east coast of the United States. You might be surprised to know that number 2 is New York City, believe it or not. So anyway, move on. Here's what a Category 1 surge looks like. Up here, the red here that you see is the additional area of flooding that this new model that we have been told to use, which is based in Charleston, the Charleston CH3 basin. So the green, both of them agree to that, and the blue is where this took away storm. That's the Category 1. I ask you to take a look at the next slide and see the difference in a Cat 3. So as I mentioned, the storm surge in Georgia is particularly bad, as you can see. This is a map that shows you the areas of inundation. That really doesn't bring it home to you. So what we have done in the last 5 years is go out and take photographs of locations within the county and overlay the storm surge on it. So I want to show you what the Woodbine City Hall looks like. This is a Category 2 on the left, a 3, and a 4. This is the Woodbine City Hall just across the street up here. And let's go down to downtown St. Mary's. Chuck, this is the Pavilion. This is a Category 4. We don't even show you 5s right here because that's just off the chart, but that gives you an idea. And this is based on the old slosh model, and the new slosh model actually is a little bit higher than this. This just gives you an idea of the severity. And I think some of the storms you saw in the recent past that came by that weren't landfalling storms that did a lot of flooding. These are storms that are becoming perpendicular to the landfall. All right. Next thing we do is a vulnerability analysis to see who is vulnerable to these hazards. We see the population, the infrastructure, the buildings, facilities, and on each of these things, and all this information is given to the county emergency managers. One more. And these are the things that we do in the vulnerability analysis, but one of the main things that we want to talk about tonight and while we're here is the creation of the evacuation zones. And Chuck has, we've been working with the county for about a year on this, and I'll tell you, give it to Chuck right now.
All right, commissioners. So again, we were really ready to go prime time with this last year, but we had a change from the National Hurricane Center in modeling requirements that caused us to pull back. So we have briefed closely with our partners, Naval Submarine Base Kings Bay, the City of St. Mary's, Kingsland, Woodbine, and the National Park Service for Cumberland Island. So we spent a lot of time, a lot of groundwork, getting everybody up to speed, answering any questions I might have as we started to anticipate what the new zones might look like. So maximum, the MOM modeling, I want you to understand is it takes 3 things. It takes a storm's trajectory. Imagine a tropical storm or hurricane driving off the Atlantic at the perfect point where it can push and lift the most ocean water, right? It coincides with a high tide period, right? And then it factors in the storm speed. So those 3 things are the kind of the 3-legged stool, and they're what's going to give you potentially the greatest impact. So the maximum is what we use because in our business, everything is based on worst case scenario. We don't plan for the best case. We plan for the worst case. And so we've done that and we've overlaid that in our ability to right size the new evacuation zones. So tropical storm. And as I'm talking about, and I'll go real quick into a Category 5 so you can kind of see the shading and the colors with the corresponding key that will tell you the depths of ocean water from that surge that could be expected. But please understand, this is not finite. This is not a perfect representation of what you might actually see. And in fact, it is possible that you could have a Category 1 storm that doesn't cause you to evacuate, while a tropical storm could be looked at based on a higher risk to the population and could call for zones to be evacuated. So every storm is unique, every storm is different. And so in this one, we're really, and you'll see this through all 5, and can I have your pointer if you can? Yeah. So what you're looking at is we take to align ourselves to the state of Georgia and to the other coastal communities all the way up to Chatham County. We've taken our barrier islands, Little Cumberland and Cumberland Island, and made that our new Zone A. So that Zone A is also used as a big indicator for the mainland population, thinking if you're in St. Mary's or potentially Kingsland, you're paying attention. And if the county is calling for Zone A, the barrier islands, to be evacuated, doing so in coordination with the Park Service, you're probably paying attention. So we get a lot of good impact from that potential change by making them be a standalone zone. And that aligns us, of course, to how the governor might order. And it also keeps us in line with our other counties going up the coast of Georgia. Then we move in from A, which is the barrier islands, into B. B really takes in kind of all of the old area that used to be what we would call everything east of I-95. The difference is for us now that we've got a new Zone C. The Zone C, by chance, allowed, based on modeling, us to have this zone, which lets us have a more phase, thinking phase A, B, C, and D. But that C zone has your hospital, your pharmacies, your fueling, your home improvement centers. There's a lot of hotels. And so keeping that Zone C in play while people that are in B are preparing to leave to evacuate, or they may be making a decision contrary to an evacuation call that they're going to ride it out. Well, they're still going to need supplies. They'll need plywood. They'll need fuel for generators. So having C be by a phased way, be later in that call for evacuation, gives us a more manageable and appropriate process to undertake the evacuation in whole. And then, of course, we've now aligned to the state of Georgia for I-95. I-95 is the demarcation line for the state of Georgia coastal evacuation plan, and they use it all the way up. That's caused conflicts in the past when the governor has called for it, yet our own plan was a little bit different because it used US 17. So now everything that is west of I-95 will be your Zone D. So those are the 4 zones, and you'll see that from the tropical storm here all the way to a Category 5. So I'll be real quick, and it just kind of show you, if we can get it to go. And we'll go to next one. Okay, hold there. Okay, so on Category 1, maximum, again, you're still seeing from these areas that we don't have water inundation in C. You're getting a light amount of inundation. It's showing it into downtown St. Mary's, a Point Peter area, and then some areas up onto the north end. Next slide. Category 2, again, you're starting to see a little more color coding as you're starting to see water in different areas. Next slide. And again, a 3, again, you're pushing more inundation in. And remember, it's important to know this does not count with, it doesn't factor in riverine flooding that may have already been occurring, a nor'easter that preceded the tropical event that's coming in. So these are other factors that could come into play to drive how and when we're evacuating. Next slide. And again, in a 4, you're seeing a lot more of that increase, that 9 feet areas that are shaded out in the red. And you're still pretty good, other than you're getting some inundation up into C. Next slide. And of course, this is a Category 5. And it's important to note that we can be calling for potentially evacuation of zones based on how a storm is acting, the pieces to the storm, what preceded the storm, and not necessarily is this cookie cutter saying that, hey, automatically, if it's a Category 2, we call for an evacuation. Everything is assessed with the National Weather Service in Jacksonville to arrive at the right decision, always erring on the side of safety. So that concludes our presentation for right-sizing the evacuation zones. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chuck. Anybody got any questions for you?
I don't.
All right, can we get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, do we have Nancy back on line?
Can you hear me now?
I heard.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So this agenda item is for the board to consider the approval of budget amendments regarding changes needed to the fiscal year 23 budget for the general fund and capital improvement fund. This is for the lawn maintenance and landscaping, which is currently contracted to Brightview Landscaping Service. Brightview was given notice that the county is terminating their contract June 30th, 23. So lawn maintenance and landscaping is being brought in-house, and budget amendments are needed for the initial outfit of machinery and equipment. Capital equipment, small equipment, and minor operating needs for the facilities mowing are listed on your agenda memo, and they are one pickup truck, a tandem axle open trailer, a Skag Tiger Cat riding mower, and miscellaneous small equipment and minor operating. Finance recommends approval of this budget amendment.
Anybody got any questions for Nancy? Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you. So this next agenda item is for discussion and action considering the adoption of a new curbside rate adjustment for fiscal year 2024. The commission approved a curbside contract with Meridian last year, which was effective July of 22. The services include trash and recycling services, and also bulky and white goods pickup if scheduled through curbside. Service has improved significantly since Meridian started last July. The average number of customers' complaints in fiscal year 22 with the previous contractor were over 102 per month. And after the initial startup with Meridian, it has averaged 7 complaints per month over the past 5 months. The county increased customer rates in July of 22 to $220 annually, and that is billed quarterly at $55 per quarter. And it was supplemented by insurance premium tax. You could see on the slide, it's a summary of where we are. So it's the current rate of $220. And I'm presenting 2 options. Option 1 is an annual charge for service of $260, which would be a $65 per quarter charge. And that would need to be supplemented by insurance premium tax of $200,000. Option 2 is raising the rate to $300, and that would be $75 quarterly and no use of insurance premium tax. And you can see in the box below at the bottom, this is the history of our insurance premium tax usage, at least as far as back as I've got the records. This current fiscal year was $291,600. Last fiscal year, $149,000. Fiscal year 21, $103,000. There was no use of insurance premium tax from fiscal year 12 through fiscal year 20, and fiscal year 2006 to 2011, we used a combined almost 1.3 million in insurance premium tax. So we are looking for recommendation on the rate for fiscal year 24.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
I'm kind of in favor of going ahead and ripping the Band-Aid off, because we also use this insurance premium tax to fund our fire department, and we don't want to neglect that for sure. But that's just my opinion. Anybody want to make a motion or another comment?
I'll make a motion to proceed forward with option 2, and if it gets a second, I'll have some discussion.
I'll second it. Any discussion?
Yeah, so the reason I like that is because I think it keeps it cleaner. You know, if you look at it, it's being subsidized by the insurance premium tax, and as you mentioned, you know, we use a lot of that money to, you know, fund the fire department. And it's really, if say we get into a scenario where we're continuously funding or supplementing that with insurance premium tax, we may have to go up on the millage rate. So it really doesn't matter. Like on paper, it may look better because the rates are staying low. But in reality, if the millage rate goes up, then it's, still the same amount of money you're paying with your unincorporated tax and your bill. So I think it just keeps it cleaner if we don't subsidize it. And it also keeps it competitive with surrounding municipalities and counties with what they're charging.
I think one of the municipalities is at like at $110 a quarter, right? I think I saw that. I think I did. I agree. I agree with Trevor on that.
Any other comment? We got a first and second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I believe this brings us to item number 10. Who's doing it? Kelsey? Is she on? Kelsey, are you there?
If she's not on, this is Nancy. If she's not on, I could do it.
Okay.
So this agenda item is to approve the purchase of 3 GMC Sierra 1500s, 1 for facilities for the new landscaping and 2 for public works for right-of-way mowing, which is being brought in-house. And this purchase is from Nally Buick GMC in Brunswick. Nally Brunswick was the only pricing on the trucks. Stingray Chevrolet and Duval Ford were unable to give the county quotes for vehicles. They are not able to get them at this time. Hardy Chevrolet and Garber Auto Mall did not return our calls. GSA did not have the vehicle that was needed. The vehicle that was comparable to the 1500 did not have the crew cab. And also GSA is 9 months to a year out on placing orders. And the vehicles presented are available for delivery within the next 2 weeks. And finance recommends approval of this purchase.
Okay, we did reach out to a local vendor in town or in the county. And
Yes.
that vendor was over $30,000 higher.
Really?
I spoke to him today and he kind of misread what was going on. But I do think we still need to reach out to local vendors.
Well, we have bought vehicles from
Right.
local vendors before.
Right.
So.
We need to continue to make that a priority.
What about some of those F-150s we were getting at? I think it was part of the Florida Sheriff's Association or something that it seemed to be a really big discount compared to what this looks like it is.
Well,
Yes.
State contract.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, so I reached out to Duval Ford where we were getting the F-150s and also to Stingray Chevrolet. And it's the way that the ordering works is they have a small time frame where you can order your vehicles for the following year. And the time is not until June and July. So they didn't have any vehicles on their lot for us. I reached out to Stingray and Duval Ford, and they did not have the vehicles on the lot. It would be, I believe, October or November before they could get them in.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Do
You're
we know
welcome.
the question, and I'm not sure if anybody has the answer. I'm looking at a market value selling price. Do we actually have the MSRP of that vehicle? And the only reason I ask is I went through a personal experience a few months ago where I ordered a company vehicle and the MSRP was one price and the market value was like $15,000 more than the MSRP. So I'm just curious. I see a market value of $47,000. I wonder how that compares. I don't see an MSRP on here.
I can reach out to them tomorrow and find out the MSRP and get back to y'all.
Well, I think we might as well go ahead and get a motion on this item.
Motion to approve to purchase the 3 trucks Public Works and Facility, 2 for Public Works and 1 Facilities as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We got a first and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. This brings us to item number 11. Chief, go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners. At this time, we'd like your consideration for approval of our 5th ambulance of the, we've already gotten 4 of the 5 that was approved for the Splosh 8. This would be a 2023 Dodge 1500 chassis, custom AEV Type 1 unit, and it would also include the outfit with required equipment. The expected build out is 18 to 24 months. Like I said, the cost at this time for the unit itself was $378,843. Of that, with the current quote that we've got as of March the 2nd, we have seen an increase already at this time of $7,670. So that actually brings the unit up to $386,513. The funding source would be through ARPA and also the Splosh 8 of the $50,000. So total cost without the $7,670 increase with the equipment was $417,702.65. So at this time, we would like for your approval to order these, being that we are looking at 18 to 24 months out.
This will lock us in at this price.
Yes, sir.
Questions? Got a motion on this item?
Motion to approve the purchase of the 2023 Dodge 5500 chassis.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
This brings us to item number 12, release all spaceport records. The county has actually started releasing the records. We've got a previous motion already on this to delay some of the records, but we started releasing records last week. I see no reason to even ask for a motion on this because we've got a prior motion already set on.
Where did those get published to?
They're on the county website.
Okay.
Reason I asked for it to be placed on the agenda, and thank you for doing that, by the way. It is a moving target, and I agree that while some records have begun to be released ever so slowly, as a moving target, it's still gathering other aspects of it. For example, one of the latest ones in terms of what's going to become a spaceport record is we continue to violate the Georgia Open Records Act, and we continue to pay excessive fees to attorneys to defend defenseless cases. And we're wrong about that, and we're going to be told pretty soon how wrong we are about it. The taxpayers still don't know what their $12 million purchased from consultants. What do we have to show for it? No buildings, no jobs, nothing but attorney's fees and consultants' fees that are very vaguely stated. The latest, let's talk about consultants. The latest one is Craig Sanders. Did a little research on Mr. Craig Sanders. It doesn't take but about a minute or two to pull this up. His latest scheme that got him much notice in Indianapolis was to create a $500 million healthcare athletic facility. Took Indianapolis business people about 1 week to send him packing. What they found was that he had had bankruptcies in personal and business, that he had at one time 200 Dunkin' Donuts stores that went into bankruptcy. Now, how do you bankrupt a Dunkin' Donuts? I mean, that is Well, here's the answer to that. His CFO stole $429,000. Does that sound anything like anything that's ever happened in Camden County? I think it does. He was forced to complete a personal finance course as part of his punishment from the courts. So we're not there yet, folks, and we won't get there until we stop it completely. And that means cutting off all funding to attorneys and all consultants funding and releasing all records. And I don't really have a motion tonight because well, I'll try it. I'll try it because it helps some people set themselves apart from others. And that's important because there are winners and losers in this game. I'd like to entertain a motion to release all spaceport records.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Trevor Reddick.
So first and second, any discussion?
You know, the one thing that has bothered me with this whole deal is, yeah, I don't think there's a county commissioner that's on the take. I hear those kinds of things. I read them. They sound like it in the paper. I don't think that's true. I personally do not. You know, you call me naive, call me whatever you want. I'm sure you will. But I can tell you right now, none of these guys are on the tape. We're not trying to do anything, not trying to hide anything. As a matter of fact, if we vote on this, I'm going to vote to release all spaceport records. I really am past trying to struggle with this anymore. However, I will say this. I want to make sure that this county doesn't get sued anymore. Now, you guys, you struggle, we say these things, but I saw where we're being sued by a lot of different people to the tune of about $50 million. That's a lot more than this other money. And when you see these kinds of things and you recognize that people will sue you if you cut your finger. And the only people, in my opinion, and excuse me, John, this is not aimed at you, is the lawyers are the only ones that are making money off of any of this kind of stuff. And it bothers me. I don't like lawsuits. I don't like people suing each other. I especially don't like for our county to sue another person in our county. That's just, to me, is just simply wrong. So I disagree with that personally, as me personally. So I say that we do release these records. We've been talking about it. We do it. Just get them out there and let everybody read them. Then you can do with them what you want. So, I mean, that's just my opinion, and that we get transparent. Now, don't stop trying to build this community. Don't stop trying to grow this community and get jobs for our kids and our children. Don't stop trying to stop the fentanyl abuse that's going on in our community and the mental health and all these other issues, because we got to have these things going. Please don't stop doing that. It's vital. It's important. So I'm just encouraging you to think in those terms. Look at what you see, look and see what you look at. As a girl in our office that always says, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm saying we still come together as a community. We still work together as a community, and we move forward and stop all this bickering and fighting. Because I'm frankly tired of it myself.
Yeah, I have no problem releasing some of the records as long as it doesn't get us sued.
I agree. That's what I just said. I agree. But that's why.
Well, that's 3 votes right there.
Yeah. Well, we didn't vote.
Well, no,
That's comment.
it's just comments. We're not voting. We haven't voted on anything.
Well, what I'm saying is go on, call the question, shoot.
Well,
go ahead with your comments. I'm sorry, Ben. I did not mean to interrupt you.
What it could jeopardize is our ability to claw back some of that money that UCC has. You even made a comment during the strategic planning that if that is actually what we were trying to do, which is what we're trying to do, we're trying to get that $2.6 million back. You said you would be in favor of that. That is what we're trying to do. We don't need to jeopardize that process. By releasing all the records, we could jeopardize that process. Now, you're talking about, you got up there and was talking about arms. Nobody said we're gonna be building arms out here. No, I did not. What was talked about was the rockets. The only difference between the rockets they have out on the Navy base and the rockets that would be built out there is destination and payload. That is it. They're actually building rockets in Camden County for the Navy. During our phone conversation, you also stated that you would be in favor of testing as long as they didn't launch rockets over Cumberland. That's fine. We're not like, we're not going to buy the property. If somebody comes in here and wants to buy the property, a private company that wants to buy the property and they want to launch a rocket, they got to abide by the EIS that says they can only do it 12 times a year, 12 testing a year. And medium and small rockets, not these giant rockets that SpaceX is doing out in Texas. So we got to be careful with what y'all want to release. I have no problem releasing the records. We are releasing the records now. We're doing it in a methodical way. We got to look at the records. We got to redact some things, like somebody's tax identification number. We can't just release that. You got to have somebody to go in and look at all these records and redact that stuff. We got to redact the ITAR stuff. We can't release that. We've got NDAs with some of these companies. Some of them, like Vector, is, everybody knows Vector came here. Everybody knows ABL came here and wanted to launch, and they had those NDAs. There's also a lot of other companies that we're trying to get back in contact with that we have NDAs on. If they say we can release their information, we'll absolutely do it. But we got to do it in a methodical way that the county does not get sued.
I'll tell you something else that disturbs me, and they say I talk too much, so I've tried not to, is the fact that a lot of people that are screaming, release the records, stop this, don't do that. But I don't hear a lot of people screaming at UCC for not cleaning up their property. It's not our property. We didn't buy it. You can't buy it. We didn't buy it.
The UCC was that they would clean up the property, and they were cleaning it up to a certain point, then they stopped. I've had, discussions with people about, they're worried about the property out there. That property, the Bear property, would be a viable industrial facility today if Bear Chemical was still making Timic. By the way, the Timic is still made in Camden County today. Excuse me? Well, Timic is made today out there. And if you work out there, if you got the Timic on you, whatever, you take off your paper suit, your coveralls, and you go take a shower in the water from the Bear Chemical plant. So, even if we don't do rockets out there, that property is going to be marketed to be some type of industrial facility.
And some of the issues out there, I used to live, where the bridge is on Harriet's Bluff Road, just before you get to the island. I used to live right there. And a lot of times when that was industry down there and you'd back out, you had to watch out because there's a lot of trucks on that road. I think that some of the issues that are going on are simply because some folks just don't want anything at the end of Harriet's Bluff Road. And be honest, that's really what's going on. And if you don't, I get that. But make them clean that property. If we're suing them to hold to that contract to get that $2.6 million back and make them clean that property, then that's not a bad move. That's a smart move. However, if that's what's going on, then that I would hold to. So, if you want transparency, there's transparency. You got to look at all the facts, and if all you have to do in this life is recognize the fact that you're perfect and everyone else is imperfect, then you've really got a rough life to go through. Because I'm gonna tell you, I'm imperfect. I am not perfect. And I will make mistakes in this life. But if you move forward, always constantly trying to figure out a way to work, to get stuff for your own children so that when they get to be our age, you look around this room, most of us, not all of us, I'm sorry guys, but a lot of us are living on Social Security and retirement. A lot of us, because we're over the age of 65. We don't need a job, but my grandchild needs a job. They're in school, they make straight A's, they do really good. They've got STEM going on and STEAM going on, or whatever you got to call it, but they need a job. And it's our responsibility to help them have those jobs. I've got maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years left, and I'm going to live off my Social Security and my retirement. But my kids aren't. They still have to have a job. So
Will the ushers please come forward to receive this evening's tithes and offerings?
tried not to do that, but
Bringing in the sheaves. Thank you, Martin, for that wonderful message.
yeah.
I think we have a motion. Do we have a motion? Yeah.
I think you're opening up a can of worm if you release all the records.
There's some that legally we cannot still release.
Well, we got a motion and a second.
Chairman, our attorney advises strongly against this.
Well, we've already got a motion from the last meeting to postpone this,
Yep.
and I'm going to stick to it.
I'd like to amend the motion from the last meeting to bring forth the motion for this meeting that we release all spaceport records for the reasons that I've stated.
We handled this last meeting. I'm going to stick to it. We
Yep.
delayed it. We are releasing the information as we can.
Is there cost involved in doing that?
Yes.
And what are those approximate costs, Mr. Casey?
Well, it's staff time.
More than that. If we were to abate at least one of those lawsuits and release those records under GORA,
And we're working on getting rid of those lawsuits.
that's $200,000 right there.
And we're working on getting rid of those lawsuits. And also, as I stated earlier, if we do not need to jeopardize the lawsuit that we have against Union Carbide where we can get back our earnest money on the purchase of the property. And you even agreed with that.
You know, I apparently agree to a lot of things the way they're presented at the time, and then we come back and rehash them. And I really support what you said about let's start memorializing conversations, because I can live with what I say. We'll always be honest with it.
We got a motion from the last meeting to delay this until July 1st. I'm going to stick with it.
Amen.
Well, we're going to move on to the next item, termination of the county attorney.
It's up to you, Chairman. Strictly up to you, Chairman, not what the audience says.
I think it is a valid point of order that there was a motion proffered and seconded and discussed, and we have to carry forward on it, come
With
what
no
may.
thought or
when it's brought.
consideration of what the hell you're trying to do to the county.
Well,
as far as I know, there's three items, right? 3 issue items. Am I right?
3 ongoing lawsuits
3 lawsuits.
regarding to the spaceport, and 2 of those 3, we are named party defendants in those cases.
Correct.
So we can't just walk away. We're being named in those suits. Or have we chosen to partake in those suits as a defendant?
We intervened in the FAA litigation in Washington, which is on hold,
Okay.
potentially going to be dismissed.
Do you have any idea how long it's going to be on hold?
Until the court action. There's negotiations going back and forth between the Department of Justice and the plaintiffs in those cases. We're also negotiating in the Gora suit, releasing the records. We've got a framework in mind with the plaintiff's attorney in that case. Working on the release. UCC, we are suing UCC for all the reasons that Mr. Casey has outlined, and we need to continue on that path if you want to get any of your money back. Releasing material that is attorney-client privileged, that is ITAR privileged, doesn't make any sense at this point.
I'd like to amend the motion, Mr. Chairman. Okay. I'd like to amend the motion as counsel stated, we are defendants in 2 of the cases. In the 3rd case, we are an interested party. And it's not the case, as I understand it, where we're trying to recoup funds. So there's nothing at risk there. So I would like to amend the motion that we release the documents related to that 3rd case where we're neither a defendant nor have any monetary gain at risk. What 3rd case? Well, you would have to ask the attorney which one is not the one we're named a defendant in. I clearly heard that that would be Union Carbide suit.
We're the plaintiff in the Union Carbide suit.
Okay.
We are a defendant in Gora litigation with 100 miles. And we are an intervener defendant in the FAA litigation, defending the license that the FAA has previously issued.
That sounds like the 3rd one sounds like the one that we can release all records on without risk.
All records pertaining to that case are germane to the other litigation. It's all interrelated.
How convenient.
Can we do this? You know, just in the transparency idea, can we write up a synopsis of what these are? You know, without the information that would get us sued. I don't want to go visit that back room that you've got there, Jim. I have no desire to be back there.
Again.
That's right. I have been back there as a visitor, though, but I don't want to go there as a guest. So what can we do to release at least a synopsis of what this is, what's going on? Because I mean, I don't think for 1 second, I've been in meetings with all these guys, I don't think anybody's trying to hide anything. I don't even think you are. I know a lawyer that you've got rules that you got to go by. But so what can we do? Because then we could amend it to go that route, you know, as far as these 3 go. What can we do?
Well, we're already doing it. We're releasing the records. We're not going to just come out here and dump them on the floor because we got to redact some stuff.
Well, I don't think we need to dump all the lawsuits, even though I don't really like lawsuits. If you can get back $2.6 million, if you can hold Union Carbide to the whole idea of cleaning up this property.
Ricky, hold your comments, please.
But if there is a chance to get it back, then I say we get it back.
Well, that's what we're trying to do.
But my question is, though, can we release everything and then give a synopsis? You know, if that makes sense to you. They say I'm a preacher. That's what preachers do sometimes. We get scripture in the Bible and we explain what the scriptures mean or what they say. That's what we do.
So the issue, let's, I guess, frame out the issue. The issue is we're concerned releasing these records may be a detriment to our case with UCC where they have failed to perform on specific performance. But what about these records, I guess would be related to this case specifically on UCC failing to provide specific performance?
Well, there's matters of attorney-client privilege. You don't want to expose your litigation strategy. You just don't go around announcing how you're going to proceed against a defendant. And that case is early enough in its litigation phase.
We haven't even gotten to the answer phase yet from UCC. There's been a motion to dismiss. The court has not ruled on that. The court's been advised of the Supreme Court ruling. We just don't want to go spilling our litigation strategy by releasing certain documents either. These matters of attorney-client privilege, it really doesn't make a lot of sense for us to release everything. To your point, Mr. Chairman, you have started releasing certain of those items, some of the NDA material, some of the contractors or the companies that have come. That type of information is being put out. The GORA litigation, again, we're negotiating with the other side, but there's also issues of attorney's fees, and attorney's fees cut both ways in GORA litigation. We can ask for attorney's fees from the other side if it's seen as an overreach on their part for trying to get properly privileged records. And we have properly, in my opinion, asserted that privilege throughout this litigation. So, you know, at this point, for us to abandon that, dump the records, dump the lawsuits, it would be the equivalent of setting the money on the table on fire and walking away from it.
Mr. Chairman, I got a comment to make.
Okay.
Everybody in here is so worried about the money that's been spent, but they're sitting here willing to give away $2.6 million. Just hand it back to them. It's ridiculous. The motion is ridiculous to do it. And to get a third vote on it is also ridiculous, in my opinion. I'm sorry. If you sit up here and do that with taxpayers' money, you got a long career ahead of you.
Hold your comments, please. Well, again, you know, releasing all the documentation without redacting stuff, without protecting ourselves legally is not wise.
This is discussion for the board up here. It's not for the audience at this time.
But stick around to the end of the meeting and I'll talk to you. So we got a motion and a second. Right, Mr. Goodman was going to amend his motion.
What's our amended motion?
The amended motion was to release whichever case and whichever materials related to any cases that we can release.
Well, they're intertwined, so we really can't do that.
I withdraw the amended motion and leave my original motion in place.
Could we release anything not related to the UCC case?
We're releasing
Mr. Reddick,
stuff now as we go through.
we are currently going to release the real estate documents in chief. That would be the option and the extensions, those types of things, and that's what we're negotiating with 100 Miles right now. But as to matters of attorney-client privilege or anything be covered by national security exceptions like ITAR, we still have to go through the process of making sure that we're not overstepping our bounds on releasing that material.
I don't see what's wrong with amending it to state what you just said. I mean, you release all the documents unless it puts me in jail, you in jail, and the rest of us in jail, or you lose $2.6 million. I don't want to lose $2.6 million either. But also state the fact that it's time to call somebody's hand on cleaning up this property.
Well, we are releasing the records as we go through them. They will be released.
Do we have an approximate cost of what litigation would cost us to get back that recoup money? Because I don't want to spend $1 million going after 2.6.
Attorney's fees are also recoverable in that action, so
Okay.
potentially we could have our bills paid by the other side as well as get some of the money back. So
There's a document for you out front there. When you see it, it's about that thick of stuff that's already been released.
As I said, we are releasing the information. We just can't release anything that would get us legally in trouble. If you would amend your motion to recognize that, then we'll go forward.
How about helping me with the statement of your motion and I'll consider it?
Well, we want to release all the information that will not jeopardize our standing in the lawsuits or get us in trouble with ITAR or any other legal things that were as far as, release something. We'll use Vector as an example. If we release a NDA on somebody like Vector and they don't want that information out, we could get sued. So we cannot release some of that information. So to just blanketly release all the information, we can't do it.
I have some pretty good information that there is no exception to GORA to
Well,
protect
that-
information that might be detrimental to the litigation. So I'd like to test that theory. I don't think there's that much to risk, to be honest with you.
That's called attorney-client privilege.
I disagree with that.
Let's just release the records. Let's just release the records.
Again, if we release records that could get us sued, I don't want to do that.
Who's going to sue us? What client out there, what business entity that we've dealt with reasonably wants anything to do with Camden County at this point? I mean, they've run from us. Union Carbide wants to be so far removed from us that it's not funny. They think we're a bunch of hicks and they're pretty right about it.
Tell them to give us back our 2.6 million. Tell them to clean up that property that they left out there. It's full of acid, what he was talking about.
I wouldn't mind if they did that. That's a different matter.
We need to tell them.
Well, that was part of our contract, and this, they were cleaning it up.
I stand on my motion. And that is to release the spaceport records. I'll live or die by it tonight. But I will do it exactly what I said I was going to do. I'll bring it up at every meeting, every chance I get, and we'll still be talking about it until it's done.
Okay. Well, I'll make an intervening motion that we stick by the releasing the records after the July 1st meeting. Can I get a second on that?
You got a second.
All those in favor? Okay. Those opposed? Okay, how's that work?
No action.
No action.
No action?
No action.
All right, no action. All right, let's move on to number 13. Okay, this is termination of the county attorney contract.
This is uncomfortable. I have always considered it in many years of healthcare administration that when I had to terminate somebody, it was a failure on my part as much as anything, barring any kind of egregious action. I can't really say there's been any egregious action except to say that as early as 2017 or 2019, it was painfully obvious to anybody who was paying attention, and certainly a county attorney should have been paying attention, that this was a failed idea. And when the county had to continuously delay and postpone its filings with the federal government related to the application and permit and continually reduce the size of the rocket and reduce it down to something which is neither economically feasible, neither practical, and in fact doesn't even exist. It should have been the advice of counsel at that point that this was a failed cause. That was at about $8 million into the process. Here we are, $4 million later, and what I understand is about $200,000 a month attorney's fees, still fighting about this. That is not good legal advice. At every turn, when this board has acted on the legal advice of its counsel, it has failed. It's done two things in its entire recent history, and that is build a firing range that is a nuisance, a public nuisance. The other thing it's done is to spend money on a failed spaceport. Those are the two outstanding things that this government has done. Those are its accomplishments. That was done with a lot of legal advice, or as we might say, not good legal advice. I still will never get over the fact that this Board of Commissioners sued me as a citizen when I attempted to exercise my constitutional right to redress my government. They sued me as a plaintiff in a petition case. Guess what happened in that case?
Is there a motion in here somewhere?
And I'm going to make a motion, but it seems like to me, when Martin wants to deliver a sermon, we don't get, okay? So, I'll get there. I'm being nice. Hey, we're going to have an altar call because we've already called for the collection. The judge in the Superior Court found against the county. The judge found that. It was appealed. The Georgia Supreme Court, 9 justices to a person, upheld the case that Judge Scarlett had found in favor of the defendants, plaintiffs in this case. And our vote was upheld. And this board has failed to recognize that the county citizens, the taxpayers said no spaceport. Here's my motion. I make a motion, and excuse me, I do want to point out one particular fact. You should have been in that court when little Miss Jackie Icorn back there, maybe 100 pounds soaking wet, just ripped the counsel to pieces. Just ripped him. Okay, thank you. Okay, I've never seen an attorney in the city of St. Mary's, in all of the YouTube videos that I've looked at, sit at the desk chewing gum and rocking back and forth in a chair. I want a more.
Don't do any personal attacks, sir.
I didn't do a personal attack. I just said I've never seen an attorney that, sat at the desk chewing gum. Is there someone here doing that? Is there someone rocking back and forth in the chair? I didn't say that. I just said I've never seen it before. Thank you, Mr. Casey. I'll pass that on. Here's what it is. It's cost the county untold millions of dollars. It's costing the county untold hundreds of thousands of dollars. It is time to look for more competent counsel, because we continue to do things that are causing us legal problems. Now, I'm allowed to say those things because of the relationship, and it's fair game, and I would be remiss in my duties to the taxpayers if I didn't stand up for your rights to have good legal representation in this venue that we function in. I have a motion. Motion is the termination of the county attorney contract and to seek counsel in the competitive market in Georgia.
Oh, we got a motion. Anybody wish to second this out? All right, motion dies for lack of second. All right, this brings us, well, I do want to say one thing, though. You were talking about the gun range. When we were at the strategic planning and we were talking about Mr. Manning and the fact that he's 3 miles away, you made the comment that there's no way that it would be an inconvenience to him.
I categorically deny saying that. Do you have?
Deny it all you want.
Well, I am
All
certainly
right,
denying.
move on to number 14.
Okay. Mr. Scott Van Osdol. Did I say that correctly? All right, let me preface what's going to happen here. We're not in an IMAX theater, and you're not going to hear the full benefit of this, but I encourage you to go on Facebook, put on a good, powerful set of speakers or a good headset and listen to the rumble and the noise that you're going to hear. And I think this one he mentions he's 4 miles away from this. 4 miles is going to cover a lot of Harriet's Bluff. It's going to be extremely loud for that area. And there's a lot of open water between where these potential test firings of ground tethered rocket engines is going to be, and it's going to blast out across Cumberland Island. And there's not been an environmental impact study on that kind of noise, which is different. It's sustained longer than the launch of a rocket, which caused quite a bit of problems. So here's what's in store for you if we allow any kind of ground testing to go on out at that contaminated site. And bear in mind that we're going to be stirring up all kinds of ground contaminants, things that we don't even know about, that have not been thoroughly even tested at this point. So for better or for worse, this is what you may hear. Thank you, Mr. Van Oslo. Can you run that up as loud as you can comfortably?
That is what some Central Texans are all too used to by now. The sound of rocket engines from the SpaceX testing site in McGregor. But the past 2 weeks, the noise and shaking have gone way up a notch.
25 News reporter Andrew Lamparski spoke with some concerned neighbors in the city to find out what's going on inside the testing center.
That rumbling comes from right here, the SpaceX rocket development facility in McGregor.
Rattles the doors, everything rattles. You can't even hear the TV over the rattle.
Lately, the shakes have gotten so bad that locals like Anna Kaiser fear it could damage their homes.
Our front door will not stay leveled, and it's a storm door, glass, heavy, but it won't stay level.
The vibration, noise, all of it, traveling new distances too. This cell phone video was taken Tuesday morning 14 miles away in Waco. It comes as the rocket facility is expanding by 50,000 square feet and it tests new Raptor engines. McGregor Mayor Jim Herring says the city's been getting an earful.
We know there is something different going on. We know that it is a problem. And we are going to be working with SpaceX to try to resolve that problem.
We even reached out to the man behind it all, Elon Musk, via Twitter to see if we could get some answers. No response from the billionaire yet. Residents simply want to know, when is it going to get better?
If the problem can't be fixed immediately, then at least we need to know what is being done immediately, so we have a timeline on when the issue's going to be resolved.
Herring says the facility typically works to find different noise reduction techniques as its tests change. But until these louder shakes are resolved,
I'm used to it, but it's aggravating. Very aggravating.
Many are still left wondering, how bad is it going to get and who is going to help? Andrew Lamparski, 25 News.
Andrew, thank you. Mayor Herring says concerns about property damage from the engine test should be sent to SpaceX at communityrelations@spacex.com. 25 News reached out to SpaceX this morning for a statement, but so far have not yet heard back.
That's good. Thank you.
This mistake is costing Amazon.
An update on that. The city of McGregor worked out a deal with SpaceX that says that if they violate testing other than certain prescribed hours, that the fines will accrue at $50,000 per incident. So it is a continuing problem. Do we want that in Camden County? I think not. People can remember the one rocket that was tested at Thiokol. You could hear it very, very loudly in downtown St. Mary's. I don't want to put us in that position. I have a motion to make, and that is that we never allow any kind of rocket testing on any of the sites out at Harriet Bluff. That's the motion.
You know, when we had that discussion on the phone the other night, you stated, when I mentioned, you know, this company wanted to come and manufacture and test their rockets, you stated that you could absolutely get behind that.
Wow.
And now in public, you flipped.
If we could play that entire conversation back, I think what the people would hear was that it was couched in such a way that that was not the major issue that was being discussed that I said I could get behind. I don't think that we're hearing the same thing, Ben.
Well,
And
I
I'm
know
going
what I
to,
heard.
I'm going
But
to.
anyway,
I'm going to respectfully disagree with you calling me a liar.
well, you can.
I will.
But anyway, your SpaceX rocket would not get past this. This is for small, medium launch rockets. Anything out there has to abide by this. Not the large rocket that's probably the largest rocket that's ever been made. You know, that's kind of misleading. That is highly misleading, especially when we're talking about, you know, small, medium lift rockets, which is allowed for 12 tests per year and 12 launches per year.
Here's what I see happening. Some court cases are going to come to fruition in settlement. Some business decisions are going to be made, and we're either going to move forward or not move forward. And at any rate, I'll stand behind everything I've ever said from this dais. I'll be very careful about conversations from now on. I think you and I both probably had better have a witness or record it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I did have a couple of witnesses. One of them's here. I'm not going to put her on the spot tonight because she's relatively shy about that. But I'll go back and ask my wife also, who heard some of the conversations, and we'll see, you know, how this shakes out. And I'll probably not mention it again because I think it's kind of a tacky conversation. Yes, thank you, Ms. Katie Bishop. We have a motion on the floor.
We have a second. Hear none, that fails.
I can live with that. I've done my job.
All right. Any reports? Was Sean on the line?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, sir, I know calendar's a little bit before me, but the only update that I have is the CIE report through the DCA. They did accept that, so just want to congratulate Joey's office, all of his staff for their hard work, and all of our other staff members that have participated in that update. So DCA did accept that. That was really good to hear. Also, just kind of going back to the release of the records, you know, Chairman, you're absolutely correct. We are sifting through that information as we go through. It does take some time, you know, trying to make sure that there's no PII, tax ID numbers, bank account information, anything like that, that we really do need to redact. So, you know, we are thoroughly going through that. We're continually making sure that it does not impact or impede any pending litigation, as the board has kind of so chose to, you know, let us know. And then we are releasing those. You can find that on the website under the Board of Commissioners tab. There's a line there that says Spaceport Camden Records, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Calendar, Katie?
I have no changes to the calendar, but I would like to remind everyone that there is a 5 o'clock work session on the 21st prior to the regular meeting at 6 o'clock.
What is that work session on?
It is with the Best Friends organization, and it's in regards to animal control.
Okay. All right, this brings us to additional public comments. Anybody registered?
Yes, Mr. Bingoff.
Ben Goff from Harriet's Bluff. I believe it twice tonight. I think I heard the commissioner for District 2, and I'm addressing Mr. Chairman. I believe I heard the commissioner for District 2 either abstain or recuse himself from 2 votes, one being the PSA proclamation. When this meeting is finished, I would like for him to explain that to me, because he is our district representative up to this point. My comment comes straight from the 2023 award-winning budget presentation for Camden, and the cost for the administration portion and 2 support folks and their performance objectives for the year. It has been said, and I surely have heard it, that government will feed on itself to grow. These are purported performance objectives for $530,539. Number of press releases written, 90. Number of newsletters sent out internally, 70. Number of community outreach and education, 40. Don't know what that means. Number of Facebook posts, 1,150. Number of Twitter posts, 3,000. Number of website updates, Camden and Spaceport Camden, 8,000. We as citizens have made a conscious decision to ignore what our local government is doing to us with regards to many things. We choose not to suffer through the 308 pages that the current budget entails. Shame on us to allow this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Well, now I got to add something to what I was wanting to talk about. Here we go with the curbside collection fee raising again. Never once do I ever hear, can y'all do anything to cut your budget? No commissioner ever asked the SWA, is there anything you can do to cut the budget so we can not have to do this? That's all I got to say about that. Now, here we go again. This is my 4th or 5th time being here. Division 2, Noise Control, Section 810, loud, unnecessary, unusual. It shall be unlawful for any person to make, continue, or cause to be made any loud, unnecessary, or unusual noise, or any noise that unreasonably or unnecessary, a noise disturbs, injures, or endangers the comfort, repose, health, peace, or safety of others in the county. That's from your county ordinance. Once again, you're steady pouring money into Two Rivers without addressing the noise issue. It's not just me. You just only hear from me. Hundreds of people out there spend thousands of dollars and spend a pile of money in this county to go out there and hunt and fish around them rivers and in them woods surrounding that whole place in peace. You're disturbing everything. We're losing people out there in our hunting club, and from what I hear, the other ones are too. That's county income coming in. But you don't care. It's not at your house anymore, is it, Mr. Casey? So let's go back to 2012. Ben Casey, Vicuna Road. Mr. Casey stated that this is the 4th or 5th time he has come before the board to complain about the noise from the gun range adjacent to his home. Your words. Chairman Rayner, I can hear the noise from the gun range in the distance all the way to my residence. Wow. Mr. Casey stated that AK-47 unloading a full magazine as fast as you can is extremely annoying. Then Mayor Kingsland stated that this is a noise polluting establishment, and he read the excerpt from the county noise ordinance, same one I just read. And Miss Julia Casey Watson explained that she lives within 800 feet from the gun range, and it should be an enclosed soundproof building. And now Matt Casey stated the main problem with gun ranges is noise, described the noise as extremely loud, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. You cannot imagine the noise unless you live there. He explained the feeling you get when you hear a gunfire is fight or flight. The sound of a bullet discharging leaves a person in a state of feeling uptight constantly, and the noise is literally a trespass. He states that he feels as if his family's lives have been stolen, kind of like I feel. Now, James Casey, he asked the board if they had to listen to the sound clips provided. Well, they won't listen to mine. They brought an expert out there to say they wouldn't listen. Same thing I'm trying to get y'all to do now. Y'all want to shut the gun range down like you did, Mr. Casey, evidently, instead of fixing the noise problem. You're spending tax money, spend the money, build the acoustic barriers, and quit messing around. Or you're going to wind up shutting it down, because I'm going to start bringing in the rest of the stuff in about the gun range that I've got piled up. All I want is noise taken care of. But if we want to get on the environmental and health issues, we will do that next. Thank you.
Stick around, we'll talk after the meeting.
That's all I have registered.
Anybody else wish to speak? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Come to the microphone. State your name and your address, please.
You hear me? My name's Greg Housen. I live in Temple Landing Road out in Browntown. What I want to do is express, I'm not allowed to speak to people. You brought up something today and you just kind of blew right off with this guy from St. Mary's. I'm making a motion or something. You should look into your authority to see that if, because there's this big project going on in St. Mary's now where the governor came in, now where they want to do this other thing. Excellent idea to make sure that they come to Camden County first for supplies, for labor, contractors and stuff. And I've seen this up in Ohio in my little town. The city council had the right to do it. They put it in the contract. You will do this. What their enforcement was, I don't know. But you can also do it for illegal immigrants. Okay? When they were building all the hotels down here, me and my friends just had some, we put ice on our hats and jumped out of a car, watched 200 guys head for the woods just to have fun. But I mean, it's something, and I think you as a council should look into it to see what authority you have to see that all these people are coming down from New York with blueprints and everything to build all this stuff. The money stays in the county. Go to local contractors, electric, the building supplies, all that stuff. And I'm done. But you guys should look into that because I know you have the authority to do it somehow. You just need to talk to your legal eagle and figure it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? But sir, to get to your point about using local vendors and stuff like that, there is something on our book. I think it's a local vendor bids on the project, and if he's within, I think 5% higher than the others, we can go with that guy. So there is something on the books on that. And Mr. Martin, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I abstained from two votes. The first one being with the PSA. And the reason I did that, I'd like to tell the whole group, is I am a pastor. Of course, you know that if you're around me more than 10 minutes. But I'm also Mike Fender's pastor. And he is one of the guys in this going on, what they're investigating. So I didn't feel like I could. I have conflict of interest there. The other one being, I just don't have the answer. And I don't want to give the wrong answer. You can call me whatever you want. But I study what I'm doing. I look at it and I think about it. And that's the reason I abstained the second time. I still am not completely clear on the right answer. It does bother me that it's still going on. I would love to finish it right now. But until I'm clear in my heart and my mind, I will. I do represent District 2. And the people at District 2, when they voted me in, knew where I stood. Halfway through the election, I literally, and I know I got 3 minutes, right? Halfway through the election, I went online and I put it's still on my website. If you go to electmartinturner.com, you'll still see the video where I stated the fact I did not think that the county needed to purchase that property. And I gave the reasons why. I didn't just throw out blanket ideas. I gave the reasons why I didn't think we needed to do that. And I still don't. However, I don't like the fact that we're being sued and that we're suing other people. But I do want Union Carbide to clean this property up. I just don't know how to make that happen. Jim is dogmatic in what he's saying. He's thought through this, and that's where he's at, and he's coming there every time. Well, I am not there yet, but I will continue to grow. So that's why.
All right. Can I get a motion for adjournment if there's nobody else? Second?
Commissioner Reddick made the first motion and I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor?